Today is Saturday, August 26th, and I'm looking at a sample of pond water that I got from Morningside Park earlier this week on the 22nd, I think. And there's a bunch of interesting things on this slide. So first, there's this giant creature here. This is at 40 times magnification right now, so the lowest power in the microscope, and about 1.6 on the phone. Let's try zooming in from 40 to 100. And I have lost the creature already, so let's try zooming out, and maybe we can do that again. Wow, I have really lost the... Shoot, where did it go? I think that's a Frontonia. That's not the one we were looking at. That is far too small. Is it hiding under the sand? Well, it's not this one. This one is large, but it's not super ridiculously large. Oh, let's try undoing that, locking the white balance, locking the exposure, and now it's a little better. So I think this one here is a Frontonia. Not sure about that. Darn. Where did the big one go? Well, perhaps we can find it again later. There was a Frontonia, but while we're here, let's look at the rotifers. Again, we're going to go from 40 times magnification up, hold on, let me center it in the eyepiece, up to 100 times magnification. And here are some rotifers. These are bdelloid rotifers. Unlike the monongonont ones, which are the ones that I usually find, but bdelloid ones are the ones that everyone else seems to usually find. Let's see if I can get any of these in focus, which is harder than I would prefer. They tend to be, I think the word is sessile, that they like to anchor themselves to some piece of sand or dirt or whatever and just hold on. And then around their face, they've got these two sort of spheres of cilia that they use to move all the water currents around, which is how they got their original names, wheel bugs, back in the day. I'm going to try zooming in from 100 times magnification to 200 times, and maybe we can see some of those wheels wheeling. So there's some. Then it looks like there's one here-ish. They used to be further out from under the grain of sand, and I don't know what is different that they're all squished in underneath. Where is this one? I was pretty sure there was one over here as well. I thought there were 4. Oh, my laundry's done. Well, I will deal with that after this video is over. But we can look at one of the rotifers here. So around its face, there are the cilia that are sort of wiggling around in a sort of a wheel-like motion. And then down in its neck, it's got, I forget what you call well, now you can't even see it. It's got this thing in its neck that acts like teeth to chew up its food. But that is hiding underneath the yellowish part right now, sort of centered in the phone's view. Let's see, are any of the other rotifers going to come out? They can elongate themselves and be have sort of twice as much of them visible outside, out from under the grain of sand. And they were doing that before I started filming, but I guess they're not doing that now. So maybe we'll come back to the rotifers later. Let's go see what else we can find at 100 or 40 times magnification. There's a Nauplius on this slide. There's a, shoot, what do you call these worms? that was my pause before speaking, that I'm trying to remember the names of these worms. They're very common. They're a type of roundworm. You would recognize the name of it if I could think of it. And I just can't think of the name of the worm right now. Hold on, let me get my field guide. It will probably jog my memory. Right. That's a nematode. So nematodes, like roundworms, and unlike most of the things that I encounter, are multicellular creatures and not single-celled creatures. Having said that, though, its cells are much smaller than the prokaryote single-celled things that I usually find, like ciliates and flagellates. I was sort of hoping it would be a little less active so we could see it better, and perhaps see whether it has an easily identifiable digestive tract and what it's been eating. But no, it's just gonna wiggle around like crazy, so there's a nematode. Back to 40 times magnification. Let's see if we can go find the Nauplius. We might have trouble with that because it is a very fast swimmer and it swims all over the place. And I realized that although I left it over here, it could be anywhere by now. It's been several minutes since I last looked at it. This is the edge of the slide, by the way. So let's see, and here's the corner of the slide. So if we just methodically look through the entire slide, slowly but surely, maybe we can find the Nauplius. No. So we can go up here and try to get a bit more in focus. And that looks like some sort of a Frontonia, perhaps. It would be wonderful to find the Nauplius. It sort of looks, I don't want to say like a spaceship, but it's got like this sort of a not quite triangular body with these sort of spiky appendages coming out of the sides. Dang it, that's 2 microbes I've lost in this video. The Nauplius and that big thing from the very beginning that I had never seen before. There's some bacteria running around in here. Not sure if that's the same nematode or a different nematode. It has calmed down a bit, so I guess while we're here, we'll take advantage of our opportunities. And yes, I know that alarm is going off. It will be over soon. So here is, not sure if it's the same nematode or if there are 2 of them on this slide, but here's at least a nematode. I'm going to try going from 100 up to 200 times magnification, but first I need to center it in the objective on the microscope. There it is. And you can see that it does have stuff in its digestive tract. I suspect that this is the rear end and the front end is over. Okay, I've lost the front end. I'm pretty sure this is the rear end. So you can see the worm itself is mostly clear, but it's got stuff in its digestive tract that is colored. And then there's the front end. Yeah, so there is a nematode. Let's go back to 100 times and then 40 times magnification and continue our search for the Nauplius, which, while we were looking at the nematode, might easily have swum into the the part of the slide we've already covered. But perhaps not. This is where the rotifers were. Ooh, and it looks like one of the rotifers has come out much further from under the sea. Aw. Yeah, so there's more of the rotifer. And you can see that they can stretch themselves out to be long and skinny, and if you spook them, they duck back to cover, and they're short and squat instead. And perhaps with one of these, you can see that the cilia around their head can make these neat eddy currents in the water, and they can sort of, I don't want to say juggle, but I'm going to say juggle bits of debris and filter it out for the parts that are good to eat. So, yes, lots of rotifers, but we have already looked at those. Can I find the Nauplius again? No, but here is that big thing from before. Let's take a look. Is this the big thing from before? I'm not sure. I think this might be a flatworm. Yeah, this is the big thing from before. I remember seeing the long spiky bits on its foot. I don't think I've encountered a flatworm on a slide before, so that's neat. I was sort of hoping I could see some eye spots at the front to be confident of that, but even without the eye spots, I suspect this is a flatworm, which is yet a third multicellular creature. Flatworms are slightly unusual for multicellular creatures in that they don't have like a well-defined circulatory system, and like, I phrased that poorly. Lots of animals, like tardigrades and stuff, have just like things that transport oxygen and nutrients and stuff just floating free in large cavities within them. Flatworms have even less of that they need to be so flat because the way their cells get oxygen is that it just diffuses in from the sides. It's like breathing through your skin. So everything needs to be very close to the skin or it doesn't get oxygen. Hence why flatworms are so flat. Most flatworms have eye spots, and I was sort of hoping that this one might, but I don't see them yet. I do see a lot of texture around the whole body. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Part of me wants to try zooming in, and part of me is afraid that it's swimming so quickly that if I do zoom in, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to... Ooh, there were eye spots. All right, I'm going to risk it. Zoom in to 200. 200 times magnification. And yeah, you can see the two black eye spots towards the front. And I think the yellow part is its digestive tract, but I am open to being wrong about that. And then here's the tail. I don't like using dark field microscopy at 200 times magnification and higher because it's not very dark field. You can see the background is not black. So I'm going to, while trying to chase this worm, hopefully, wait, oh, I've entirely lost it. I got distracted. Okay, so let's zoom out to 40 times magnification and maybe we can find the flatworm again. There it is. So now, while it's definitely in field and I can follow it, let's try going to bright field and clamp down the diaphragm. And now zoom in to 100 and then zoom in again to 200 times magnification. Yeah, now you can definitely see the eye spots. And a whole bunch of other texture on its body, particularly its tail. So, that's neat. I have never seen a flatworm with my microscope before. Look at it cruise, it's just plowing through everything. I think the lesson to learn is to try to sample from the bottom of the pond more and not just the top of the pond. Usually I go to the part of Morningside Pond where you can feed the turtles and just get some water from the top, and if there's like a leaf floating in the pond, I'll put that in too. And this time I went to the part to the left of where you feed the turtles. Ooh, that was interesting. Is the nematode trying to attack the flatworm? Or are they just coincidentally... Yeah, okay, they're going their separate ways. But this time I went to the left of where you feed the turtles to the part of the pond that feels like it needs more water in it almost. That there's like the rocks around the outside edge, but then past the rocks there's still a part that is not the pond and it gets very shallow. And I grabbed some of the water from the very shallow part and some of the mud from there as well. And I found in this sample, not this particular slide, but this sample, my first gastrotrick and my first my first flatworm. So that is pretty neat. Let's leave the flatworm alone and continue the search for the Nauplius. We've got some kind of a ciliate here. We've got several other ciliates here, but the Nauplius is very identifiable. It will be obvious when we find it, if we find it. There's the flatworm again. And here's where the rotifers were. So let's try looking way down this way, in the very corner that is farthest away from everything else. Doesn't seem to be much over here. Possibly because the water in the slide is evaporating. So let's get some water and put a drop over in this corner, and maybe it will diffuse into the rest of the slide. By the way, if you look at these big things and you get all excited, no, this is an air bubble. That is something, but the big one is just an air bubble. Dang it, I've been talking up this Nauplius and it's just not around. I found it 2 minutes before I started recording the video. If we go up to this corner, is there anything interesting here? We might have to make do with some ciliates. Up to 100 times magnification, and yes, dishwasher, I know that you're done too. I will get to both the dishes and the laundry after I'm done with this video. So, various ciliates. I don't know what these are. I don't know if they're the same species or different species. Let's try going to dark field microscopy, and maybe that will reveal something interesting. Maybe it won't. This one seems to be digesting something that used to be either reddish or yellowish or something. I don't know. There's various colors in here. The green ones are probably algae, and you can see like these guys are a type of volvocine algae, which makes these like multicellular colonies that are sort of held together with this translucent, I imagine it's gelatinous stuff, but I don't actually know. And volvocine stuff is a great example of going from single-celled life to multicellular life, that there are lots of different things in the family that go from just a couple of cells to a whole bunch to very well-organized colonies where different cells have different functions within the group. People who like studying the early life and how and the evolution of early life and how it went from single-celled life to multicellular life, like looking at Volvox and its other Volvocine cousins. Then we've got some other type of algae here. I think this is the kind that has like 4 cells and spikes in the corner, but I could be wrong. If we go to dark field microscopy, or excuse me, bright field microscopy, the spikes aren't really visible. I could be wrong about that. What is this thing? I don't know what that is. It's some sort of algae. Hard to tell. So let's go back to 100 and then 40 times magnification, and from bright field to dark field microscopy. And maybe, just maybe, if we're extra lucky, in addition to the flatworm and the Frontonia and the all the rotifers, we can see, or at least try to see, the Nauplius. And it might just be hiding and we'll never see it again. Like, maybe it's in here somewhere. But Nauplius are pretty good at swimming around and they don't like to get penned up. I suppose if I look at the slide with my bare eyes, yeah, it just looks like a bunch of specks. I'm not going to find anything looking there. Here's the nematode, excuse me. All right, I'm going to give up on this Nauplius, and if I find it again later, I'll make a new video. Wait, what's all this? Why are there so many bacteria here? This is just the place where the bacteria hang out. Okay, fine. Here are some bacteria. Ooh, it looks like there's at least 2 types of bacteria. There's the ones that are wiggling around and they're sort of 4 or 5 times longer than they are wide. So they can get like 2 or 3 wiggles into their body. And then here, oh, that's gonna be hard to get this in focus. There's a spirochete bacterium. So the green thing, sort of in the center of the phone, is a pediastrum, I think, and just next to it over here is a longer wiggly line type thing, and I think that's a spirochete bacterium. I'm not sure what the little bacteria are, but they're something that you see. They're relatively common for bacteria. I don't usually bother looking at them because bacteria are so boring. There's not much to look at because they're so small. Yeah. Okay, so bacteria here. Anything else interesting? No? End of the video? End of the video.